based on accounts from volunteer search and rescue workers in eastern Kentucky, I grew up near the edge of the Appalachian Mountains in a place where the forest doesn't feel empty, it feels occupied. The tree line there isn't just where the woods begin. It's where people stop talking louder, where dogs refuse to go, where light seems to behave differently. There's a rule. Locals don't write down, they don't teach it, they just pass it along quietly. If you see lights below the tree line at night, don't follow them. Not headlights, not cabin windows, not flashlights, lights that don't belong to anything. In October of 2016, a hiker named Daniel went missing near an old coal trail that hadn't been used in decades. The trail wasn't dangerous, no cliffs, no rivers, no recent storms. Weather was clear, temperatures were mild. Daniel was experienced. He knew the area. There was no reason for him to disappear. When his truck was found, parked neatly at the trailhead the next morning, keys still inside, search and rescue was called immediately. I was part of the volunteer team that went out that night. We split into grids and moved slowly, calling his name, listening for movement, for answers, for anything human. The forest absorbed sound the way it always does out there, like it didn't want to give anything back. Around 2:40 a.m., one of the volunteers radioed in. His voice was steady but lower than normal. He said he could see lights, lantern light, not bright, not flickering wildly, just moving. They were deep in the forest, far below the tree line, in a section of land where there were no roads, no cabins, no power lines, no reason for light to exist. At first, Command thought it might be another search team, but the lights didn't move like people. They flickered, paused, shifted sideways, then continued again, like something walking carefully, learning the ground as it went. Command told him to ignore it and stay on the grid. There was a long pause on the radio. Then he said, "I think they're watching us." That was the last clear transmission we got from him. The radio cut out mid-sentence. No static, no warning, just silence. Search protocol says not to break formation. But something about that silence made everyone uneasy. We kept calling his name. No response. At dawn, we found Daniel. He was standing upright at the base of a tree, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes open, not leaning, not collapsed, standing. His boots were clean, no mud, no leaves. His clothes were dry. There were no injuries, no signs of hypothermia, no indication he'd been lost, panicked, or running. It looked like someone had placed him there. When he finally spoke, it wasn't right away. He stared past us toward the forest. When asked where he'd been, he said quietly, "I followed them until they stopped pretending to be lights." We asked what he meant. He didn't answer. At the medical station, Daniel refused water, refused blankets, refused to sit down. He kept asking what time it was. When told it was morning, he whispered, "That's not possible." Later, when a ranger tried again, Daniel finally explained, or tried to. He said the lights moved lower and lower into the trees, always just far enough away to follow, never close. At some point, he realized they weren't casting shadows, and they weren't lighting the ground. They were lit themselves. He said when he stopped walking, the lights stopped too. When he turned around, the forest behind him didn't look the same anymore. Too quiet, too close. He said, "That's when I understood they weren't leading me somewhere. They were making sure I didn't leave." Daniel was released later that day. 2 weeks later, he walked into the forest behind his house. No gear, no phone, no note. Search teams went out again. They never found him. But hikers still report seeing lantern lights moving below the tree line in places no human could walk, always just far enough away to follow. Collected from rural West Virginia folklore interviews. My grandfather warned me about the knock long before I was old enough to understand why it mattered. He didn't say much about it. Just enough. Not strangers, not animals. The knock that sounds like it knows you. In the mountains, people don't rush to doors. Not after dark, not after midnight. My grandfather said if someone knocks on your door late at night, you don't answer right away. You sit still. You listen, because sometimes the knock will answer back. He grew up in rural West Virginia in a stretch of land where cabins are miles apart and the forest presses in from all sides. No street lights, no cell service, just trees and old roads that fade into nothing. He said the mountains remember voices, they remember footsteps, and they remember people who stay alone too long. I didn't think about that warning for years, not until the winter I stayed alone in the family cabin while my grandfather was in the hospital. The snow came early that year, heavy, unforgiving. By nightfall, the road was gone, swallowed by white and silence. The power flickered but held. The cabin was quiet in the way only mountain cabins are. Not peaceful, just listening. I locked the doors, checked the windows, lit the stove. At 1:13 a.m., there was a knock. It's 3 slow taps. Not loud, not urgent, deliberate. I froze. Every sound in the cabin seemed to pull inward like the air itself was waiting. I didn't move, didn't breathe. Then I heard my own voice from the other side of the door. "It's okay, you can open it." Same tone, same pacing, same hesitation I always have when I'm unsure. Even the breathing was right. I stepped back. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would give me away. The voice spoke again, calmer now, more confident, like it was learning. "You always pause before opening." I remembered. My grandfather's words came back to me all at once. Sometimes the knock will answer back. I backed away until my shoulders hit the far wall. The door didn't move. No handle turning, no forcing, just silence. Then the knocking stopped. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in a chair with a fire poker in my hands, watching the door, waiting for anything else to happen. Nothing did. When morning finally came, the snow had stopped. The world outside was too bright, too normal. I opened the door slowly. There were footprints in the snow, bare feet. They came from the tree line, straight to my door. They stopped right at the threshold, then turned around and walked back into the forest. But not normally. The prints changed. Hands, feet, too close together, like whatever made them left on all fours. I followed them only with my eyes. They disappeared where the snow met the trees. Later, I asked neighbors if they'd been out that night. They wouldn't meet my gaze. One old man finally said, "It answered you back, didn't it?" I asked him what it was. He shook his head. "Doesn't matter. It heard you. That's enough." My grandfather never came back to the cabin. Before he passed, he told me one last thing. He said, "If it knocks again, don't be quiet. Leave. Because the second time, it already knows how to sound like you." Locals say the mountains remember people who stay too long alone, and sometimes they practice wearing you. based on reports from abandoned coal mine inspections near the Virginia-Tennessee border. There's an abandoned coal mine near the Virginia-Tennessee border that locals don't talk about unless they trust you. Not because it's unstable, not because it's illegal to enter, but because, according to everyone who's been near it long enough, it's still active, not operational, not maintained, alive. The entrance sits halfway up a wooded slope, hidden by brush and rusted fencing that's been torn down more times than anyone can remember. There are no warning signs left. Just a black opening in the rock, wide enough to swallow light. Hikers sometimes find it by accident. They report the same things. Warm air flowing out of the entrance, even in winter. A faint smell of damp earth and old metal. And beneath it all tinges a slow, rhythmic sound, like breathing. Most people don't stay long enough to question it. In 2009, a private survey crew was hired to inspect the mine after reports of minor ground collapse uphill from the site. Officially, the job was simple: document structural decay and confirm the tunnels were fully collapsed. There were 4 of them, experienced, equipped. Not the type to scare easily. They brought oxygen meters, CO2 sensors, headlamps, backup lights, and rope markers, everything standard. From the start, the mine felt wrong. The air inside was warmer than outside, not by much, but enough to notice. The sound was there immediately. Low, steady, in, out. One of the crew joked that the mountain was snoring. No one laughed. About 10 minutes in, the oxygen meters chirped softly. Not a warning, just a fluctuation. Then the CO2 sensors spiked. Not from lack of oxygen, from excess carbon dioxide, as if something massive had just exhaled into the tunnel. They stopped walking. The sound got louder, not faster, closer. One of the crew placed his hand against the wall and pulled it back immediately. He said it felt soft, not wet, not crumbling, yielding, like pressing against thick rubber. Another crew member said the tunnel felt tighter than when they entered. Not collapsed, just closer, as if the walls had shifted inward. That's when the sound changed. The breathing synced with their movement. When they stepped forward, it deepened. When they stopped, it slowed. They decided to turn back. The tunnel behind them looked the same supports, same bends, but it felt longer. They walked for 10 minutes, then 20. The rope markers they'd placed on the way in were gone. The breathing grew louder. The CO2 levels climbed again, then dropped, then climbed, like something was regulating them. One crew member started panicking. He said the ground felt uneven now, like it was sloping downward, even though their maps said it shouldn't. Another swore he could feel air moving past his legs, as if something large had shifted behind them. They ran. Headlamps shook. Footsteps echoed too many times. It took them nearly 2 hours to reach the entrance they'd entered through in 10 minutes. When they burst into daylight, the sound stopped instantly. No fading, no echo, just silence. The air pouring out of the mine went cold. Later, when they reviewed their data, the readings didn't make sense. CO2 spikes with no clear source. Temperature changes that didn't match airflow patterns, and gaps in the timestamps. Minutes missing, unrecorded. The official report blamed sensor malfunction. The crew never returned. Locals weren't surprised. They say the mine fills itself when it's hungry, that sometimes it collapses on purpose. that sometimes it opens paths that weren't there before, and that it releases people only if it's already fed. A few years ago, a hiker disappeared near that same slope. His backpack was found weeks later sitting neatly near the mine entrance. Inside were his keys, his phone, and a recording, accidentally triggered. For several minutes, all you hear is wind. Then, breathing, slow, deep, and finally a voice whispering, "It's full now." Common warning passed through Appalachian families. My mother told me this when I was still small enough to believe adults always had a reason for the things they feared. She said it casually like it was nothing. If you hear your name in the woods, no, you didn't. No explanation, no story attached. Just a rule. In the Appalachian Mountains, warnings like that aren't superstition. They're survival habits, because the mountains don't shout, they don't chase, they don't rush, they imitate. They learn voices the way echoes learn shape. Growing up, I heard versions of the same warning everywhere, from neighbors, from relatives, from people who'd lived their whole lives near the tree line. Never respond, never answer back, never turn around, especially if the voice sounds familiar. In 2018, a college student named Aaron went missing during a solo camping trip in western North Carolina. He was studying environmental science, experienced outdoors, careful, the kind of person who double-checks maps and leaves detailed itineraries. He planned a 2-night trip, 1 trail, 1 campsite. He never came back. Search teams found his tent intact, food untouched. No signs of struggle? His phone was discovered a few yards away, powered on, battery half full. There was only 1 recording on it, an automatic audio file triggered by motion. It starts with footsteps, slow, even. You can hear leaves shifting, gravel under boots, the faint sound of wind through trees. Then a voice calls his name. Aaron. Female, calm, close. It sounds like someone who knows him. He stops walking. You hear him breathe. He answers. Yeah? There's a pause, then the voice calls his name again. Closer this time. Same tone, same inflection, as if it adjusted itself. Aaron laughs nervously and says, "Who's that?" The recording picks up something else now. Footsteps behind him, perfectly matched. When he steps, it steps. When he stops, it stops. No branches snapping, no leaves crunching differently, like it knows exactly how he moves. Aaron whispers, "Hey, that's not funny." The voice says his name again, right next to him. He turns. You can hear the fabric of his jacket shift. His breathing changes. The last thing he says is, "How do you know my voice?" After that, the recording continues for 7 full minutes. No footsteps, no movement, just breathing. Slow, steady, too close to the microphone to be his. Search teams scoured the area for weeks. No body, no blood, no trail. Locals weren't surprised. One older woman told a ranger, it got him because he answered. When asked what it was, she shook her head. Doesn't matter. Once it has your voice, it doesn't need you anymore. Families in the Appalachians still teach their children the rule. If you're hiking and hear your name called, even gently, you keep walking. If it sounds like your mother, your partner, your friend, you walk faster. And if the voice sounds exactly like you don't run, because whatever is imitating you already knows how you move. And it's close enough now to breathe with you